Hail and well met, adventurers. Welcome back to another episode of Hero Sheets. I am your lovely host, Adora Andaria. I use she, her pronouns, and today's lovely guest is Ari. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ari. You can find me on Twitter at C-anemone and then the number 6. I use he, him pronouns, and you might know me from Mousecapade, where I play Joel.
Yes. Do you want to talk about Joel a little bit? Because he's a very cool character.
Let's jump into that then. Joel's based on me, so he's going to be pretty cool off the bat. But I was talking to Joe because Joe and I have a lot of D&D background because we went to high school together and just did a lot of character development and fun stuff, nerdy high school stuff. And that really helped me get into the creative aspect of D&D. This is a form of self-expression. This isn't just a game. This is everything. You can do so much in it. So when they invited me to play in Mousecapade, I was like, let me make a character that is something that I like every aspect of them. I didn't just throw anything together. I thought about all of the aspects of them. I was like, this is dope. And from the race up, he's an ASMR, HMR. He does have some ass though. And he is a cleric, which is a class I always like, but people kind of I don't want to say competitive D&D, but some people are like, clerics are necessary. You can use health potions, and I guess you can, but exactly. I was like, whatever. I like clerics. I want to be a cleric.
I feel like we talked about this on some episode of Hero Sheets maybe, or this is just like a conversation I get into a lot. Clerics are such a cool class because they kept getting boost in my opinion, to make them more favorable with players, and then players still didn't like them because they kept stereotyping them as just well, they're just a healer, and it's no,
right.
my sister plays a war cleric who doesn't do any healing, and if you're down, that's an honorable death if you die in battle, and does so much really cool damage that I'm why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah, they have. I think I started out in 3.5. I can't remember, but 3.5 is crazy, and that's when I did my first cleric run where I was like, how am I going to optimize this clericness? And running up on people with enlarged person and just wailing on them is so. That's not, you're not just out here healing people. This is really cool. You can do a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, it's just, I think, and you hit on this immediately when you started talking about Ari, is that it's a form of self-expression and just doing all the things that you want to do.
Totally.
Which that's all D&D character creation is for me, and it's my favorite thing, and that's what inspired this show partly. It's just I want to talk about this cool thing that we do with your character. Do you want to keep describing Ari a little more? We haven't finished talking about how he came into existence.
Oh yeah, okay. So actually, a cool part of it is there's this class. What is it called? A hero shooter. Like Overwatch. There's a hero shooter called Paladin that has this character named Ceres, who is a healer, and she has a lot of crowd control stuff, and she uses a censer with incense in it, and is really creative and funky and ethereal, and was astral plane wanderer, and I was like, she is cool. So I designed a alternate character costume for her, a gender bend that was also Valentine's Day themed. And he had red and white with pink accent, and actually Valentine's Day was coming up, and I wanted to do a photo shoot with one of my best friends. And so I got all of this stuff together for this kind of cosplay, kind of just cool outfit in general. And at the same time, Joe came to me about the character, and I was like, wait, I kind of low-key already have a really cool character concept that I'm starting with. So then I just built on that, and I was talking with Joe, and they had these fantastic ideas for how to use the sensor and turn into a meteor hammer, ball and chain whip thing, and that evolved into Joel's playstyle. I learned a little bit more about Lady Firehair, and some background in clerichood that I could do, and just other things that really like jumped out to me, and it just really came together in this cool way. And then I just had to sprinkle a little of my personality in there, and he just came out to be like this really cool representation of what I would want to be doing in D&D. And I love how he utilizes light. He's a light domain cleric, so it's kind of like crowd control. I'm kind of calling back to Ceres. You can blind people. You can give illumination in certain areas. Earlier, I used burning hands to create a signal to alert someone. It's just there's a lot of versatility there. And I was like, yeah, he's doing all of that, and he's gonna be a badass at the same time.
I love it. You guys all on Maskapades all have like characters that I love so much. But they're all
I love
so
our
like
teammates.
so good. But I do have to say that my favorite character is obviously Daisy. She's just like the
Obviously,
best.
Daisy, I don't even know if that counts because Daisy is the main character. So
Yeah,
like,
well,
you have to.
you're right. It's just like, well, obviously Naruto is my favorite character in Naruto.
Exactly.
Daisy is my favorite character from Maskapades. Um,
It's about Daisy.
I do want to
I'm
hop
ready
into
for the
some
spinoff.
honestly, I see Joe's on chat. If Joe could create some sort of spin-off game where Daisy is leading a party through some sort of adventure, I would be down.
We already know Daisy would pop off. We already know that.
Honestly, I do want to hop over and take some questions from our Discord. I want to take
Woo!
this first one from Sophia. I love her. She asked, if you made a fully realized tabletop RPG, what would it be like?
Okay. Great question. I have been, as almost every creative person does, I have been writing a story for the past like my whole life, as we all do. And it's been really evolving a lot recently as I've been in college, and focusing more on my life and what I want to do and how I want to incorporate the things that I care about into the things that I'm going to do with my life. So that's really given me the opportunity to like double down on making this be something meaningful. And my approach to it is going to be a dual pronged game and actual digital story. I just don't really feel like that has been done in a way that like has ever resonated with people, on like a relatively broad scale. So if I had a tabletop RPG, I would want to create the phone game is basically like a gotcha game mixed with a card game mixed with chess. So that's pretty much like perfect for a tabletop RPG. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like made for it. And the defining system would be kind of like the energy system and how you can. It's like chess because if you win an interaction, they're dead. Like kind of how Yu-Gi-Oh is. When you win, the opponent is gone. So it's also not. I used to play Warhammer 40K and it had so many rules. I was like, and I was like 12. I was like, I don't think I can do this. So I would want to bring those cool elements of having those little figures, the collectability, interesting character design that comes with Gacha, and then a unique gameplay system to kind of tie everything together and make a tabletop RPG that I feel like would appeal to a lot of different kinds of people and have a story attached to it and have really cool black and brown representation because I think that's really important too.
Yes. Wow, that was a lot.
It is a lot.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. There's like, I feel like you can't easily, like as a fellow creative person, there's no way to easily like summarize any idea that you're currently working on, and so there's like a lot of like layers that always come with it. So that entire time you were talking, I was just like that, like we were talking about this earlier, that I'm a sucker for like Pokemon cards and trading cards in general. Like I like opening booster packs, and so I feel like gachapon games really suck me in because it's that same like desire to like I want them all, and so to have that aspect tie into like a tabletop RPG, I think would be very interesting.
And then
I
on
also
top of that, adopted characters are so pretty.
yeah
Their art is so nice. They're
yes,
so engaging.
I'm like if I could collect like cards and figurines, like that I'm gonna support it.
Of course.
Because that's all I do. Um, I honestly can't come up with an answer to Sophia's question, which is great because it wasn't directed to me. But like I absolutely love like modern fantasy things.
Yeah.
And so like to have a cool modern fantasy game would be great. And so that's all I want.
Mood.
I think I think science is really cool, and so to explain magic with science in a
Yeah.
meaningful way in a tabletop RPG would be great.
Yeah.
And I know if I ask my cool friend Vince, he could probably recommend me 6 tabletop RPGs that do it lovely.
Right. It's definitely like a matter of, and Joe, I keep talking about Joe, but I love Joe.
No, it's
Joe
okay.
would know good world building is like when you integrate magic logically with the science of a world. Obviously, if there's magic in a world, it's no longer going to be considered like whimsical. It is a science and it can be practiced and brought down. So how is that integrated into society? How does that change the way people view things? That's like infinite potential with that. And it's just really cool to see how it translates in individual worlds and games. So I'm totally with you on
Exactly.
that.
And so like to see it implemented in like really small ways, like my
Yeah.
favorite example of it is like a magic coffee shop, and like seeing how that works, and just like no one in the space is impressed by it at all, but when you introduce
Right.
players to this kind of setting, they're like,
Exactly.
oh, that's so cool. That's like that's the kind of stuff I want, is just like a really impressive magic world where magic's not
Yeah.
really impressive. um
Yeah.
Ooh, Nova suggests Swords Fall. I might, and by might, I mean I'll definitely check that out. Let's take another question from our Discord. Another great question. Oh, Magic Cat Cafe Joe is such a cute idea.
Wait. Oh no.
Could you imagine? Hold on, we're gonna put a pin in me looking at another question. Could you imagine,
We're
like,
gonna have
could you imagine going to a cat cafe and being able to talk to the cats? Like,
and
that'd
they're
be
like
so.
flying and walking on the wall and being cute and extra
Or just
dimensional.
like magic cat toys. Like,
Oh my gosh. There's too much. You see? It's too much
it's so
for
good.
my mortal mind. There's too many layers of potential.
Oh my gosh.
Ugh.
Feel free to just steal that idea from us because it's a good one.
Yank, right?
Make it
That's
so
the
I
new
don't have
minigame.
to. Next question comes from our lovely producer Nova, and she asks, "Do you have
Mm.
a trope or character trait that you give to almost all of your characters, consciously or not?"
That's a good question because probably like all of my high school experience like was reading TV tropes. So, uh, huh. Well, I have like I was raised by a single mom, so I have like a really, really, really staunch view of like strong female figures and like
Mm-hmm.
strong strength and femininity put together. And whenever I design a female character, I think the trope that I employ is like never making them be important because of some kind of connection. That's like the most annoying thing in the world to me when it's like the president's daughter and like nobody is their own woman. Like never that literally makes my head want to explode every time I see it. So I think that's probably the best answer I can give because I do go out of my way to try to implement unique tropes and try to play with my perception of things, but I will never do that. Ever, 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 ever.
Honestly, we love to hear it. I actively, for the last couple of weeks, have been going through a lot of my like sketchbooks and notebooks from middle school. And so, like, middle school Daria had a very obvious trope that she would give to all of her characters, which is very funny. But like, current Daria also has like actively am aware of like the same trope or like a different trope that I give to all of my characters, which is I
Yeah.
really like playing smart characters even if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
smart. Oh, Nova's great point in the chat that they give or that she gives all of her characters ADHD, uh, and they're just like more versions of them, which I love.
Yes.
But like I just love playing a character who just knows stuff, but it also turns into them being very anxious about a lot of situations that they're in.
Yeah, that's fun.
So I've talked about this a lot of times. My first D&D character was a wizard, and she was really smart, but she was really anxious about everything, and she was just that's just who she was. I played one really dumb character. I love him, but he was a handful to do. And Voitra, who I play in our Lost Minds of Foundever, has a high intelligence stat despite being a warlock. And so does my fighter that I was playing in my home game. She had a really high intelligence stat, and then she would constantly tell the party, like, we shouldn't do that. We can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then stuff would happen. She's like, I can't believe we're doing this, and would have to punch real hard.
Yeah. That's how it is in real life too.
Honestly, anytime I encounter a problem that I warned my friends about, we just have to punch it really hard. But in middle school,
but I mean, hey,
all of my OCs had like the anime protagonists like energy of like I'm the best in the world, but like
yeah,
no brains, bronze only.
yes,
and
Asta.
And like
Asta type beat,
yes, and then like looking back on like all of the little story beats that I would have in my fake world, 100% they were all just lesbians and they couldn't piece it together. Because all of like the male OCs I would make were just like, I don't know, and he's a guy that she's gonna fall in love with, who cares? And she's so strong with her rippling muscles and she can punch through walls.
Yeah, that's when you go back and you're like, look at this, I'm like, wait a minute.
I think in middle school I was actively like, yeah, I'm gay, and then but I just couldn't put it onto a character for some reason.
Yeah,
like,
you just didn't.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely, a lot of, I love psychology. It's a lot of self interpretation and like understanding what you understand about yourself, because like a lot of people kind of just exist like separately from themselves, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But like being able to like say I do these things because I am this way, I make this happen because this is how I think, that comes with time and experience with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure current Aaron like very much knows that. Like,
oh yeah. Very aware. Just fun to look back and just be like, you don't even know.
Yeah.
Let's let's hop back and grab another question from the Discord. We're gonna take one from Rue. And he asked, oh, we already answered that one. Do you have a favorite tabletop RPG system? And if so, what do you like about it? Like, what makes you love it?
Do I? You know what? That is a good question. I don't think I've even thought about that myself. If I have a favorite one, I'm gonna be so honest. 40K scarred me. I was like, yo, if this is what tabletop RPGs are, I am not ready. Like, I really tried, and of course I was a part of it. I didn't like give up or anything, but it was an investment. It was a serious like degree of like, okay, this is not something that I normally operate in. Like, I like Pokemon. I normally play games that are like, you can
for children.
You can like learn everything. You could theoretically learn every single thing and then just start growing from there. But with this, I'm like, it's literally going to take me like 6 months to learn everything and read every book. I don't think I can do that.
Yeah,
so,
and
I don't know. I'll get back to
do you have a favorite tabletop RPG system? Again, my cool friend Vince has inspired me to start looking outside of D&D so I don't have to make it do things that it's not built for.
Yeah.
And I honestly I'm in love with. It's so stupid. I love the honey heist system. Just because it's literally so system. It's like the one-page RPG cheats. It's free. You can find it online. I can't think of the guy who made it, but it's just
Oh,
like
okay.
you got two stats. It's bear and criminal, and
Yep.
it's very easy to run with. I think it was the last thing that my D&D club played before spring break, and it was just so easy to get everyone to like quickly understand what's going on. And
Yeah.
I still look at it and I'm like, I want to play that again.
I love that. I think there's like, and I play fighting games a lot. I forgot to say that at the beginning. I'm like a fighting game enthusiast basically, and one thing that I really like is like, well, you might not know, but you probably know. With fighting games, it's kind of like a preconception that they're supposed to be complicated because most of the time they are really complicated. So like when you have one that's mad simple, it changes everything. It's not like, oh, this game is simple. Like, no, the concepts are just as complicated. It's just now there's simpler rulings, and it changes how you think about it, which is like, I love that. I love that too. There's this game that I played called, I think it's called, oh my gosh, maybe Llamageddon. I can't remember, but it was the most adorable card game in the world. And you can use like llamas, goats, alpacas, and I think sheep. And it was like a card game, and it was like so simple that it was like really, it was basically like chess or checkers. You have to like really think about everything you do, and I loved it. I played like 4 times and I was in love. Let me see. Why can't I remember what it's called?
I don't know, but Nova did point out in chat that Grant Howitt made the honey heist, and I love it because it's so simple. I also I got a question. Is your background just like a bunch of Cheez-Its? Like, do you have Cheez-It boxes on the
Yes,
wall?
yes, it is.
Just like I just caught it.
Hold on, just a moment.
All right, cool. How's chat feeling? What's the vibe in chat right now?
But you should ask.
Honestly, oh my
My
gosh.
wall is just Cheez-It, and it is not even finished. But as you can see, it could be finished whenever I want to.
Oh my gosh, do you just like love Cheez-Its
And
that much?
Rico Nasty. That is the rapper Rico Nasty. You can't see all of her, but she's really cool. And she's a single mom. You see? Comes full circle. She's a rapper. She's just awesome. And I was like, and her picture's orange. She's going with my Cheez-It. Yes, I do just love Cheez-It. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, I literally just noticed while you were talking about Llamageddon or whatever it is called.
Whatever it is.
Which also like your whole spiel on that reminds me before like quarantine started, me and my friends played like a game of Uno for our like and it really messed with our minds cuz a lot was happening. I do a bit where I think I talk like an anime protagonist, and doing that voice gives me a headache sometimes. But I was doing it, and I was narrating everyone's moves, and sometimes I would just say what cards I had in my hands. My friend's brother straight up was playing like Yu-Gi-Oh, so he had cards face up on the table, and like, it's a really simple game that made it a lot more complex for no real reason.
I love that. I've been starting to play Uno like an anime protagonist. My friend calls it godforsaken Uno because there's like, I call it like normie casual Uno, where like you can't stack cards, you can't stack card effects going around, stuff like that. And I'm like, man, at that point you're just playing like
Uno.
Go fish. Like you're playing like it's very chance based. But when me and my friends play, it is like high speed, Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds where they were in the car. That's what we play.
We love to see it. Also, Joe says that it's called Llama Unleashed or Llamas Unleashed.
Yes, I was like, I was kept wanting to say, I was like, it can't be Llamageddon because there's alpacas, and then they would have been missing out on alpaca lips. And I was like, it has to be something else.
But I do want you to know that Llamageddon is a horror movie that came out in 2015 because I googled
Okay,
it.
that must be what I was thinking about because I was like, why won't that get out of my head? I was like,
um, let's grab another question from the Discord. Um, oh, Joe wants to know if you can describe your creation process a little more. We kind of talked about it with Joel and like how
mm-hmm.
like his whole character came into being. But like if you want to just talk about like how do you get an idea and how do we work from there?
Yeah, Joe knows. It's maybe not coincidental because it's kind of, well, whatever. A lot of stuff's been going on, and a lot of ideas have been sparked because we're in the quarantine renaissance, you know. But I was actually talking to Joe like a week ago about a character I was coming up with, and I'm going to use that character as an example for the concepts that I bring into existence because it's usually like I'll think of something really cool, like really really cool, but like super out there, like it is not actualizable at all. And for example, I was thinking of, I really love Naruto, of a character of the Akimichi clan who can grow in strength. I was like, what if they could make a alternate dimension inside of their stomach by expanding the space of Yang chakra? I was like, what would that be? You know, how would that work? I was like, that's really cool. Like, that's a really cool idea. So like, what do I have to do to make that make sense? And like, what themes can that represent? And I was like, well, obviously the Akimichi clan, and this is when I get into research because I love research because I'm a huge nerd. So I'm like, well, the Akimichi clan, their symbol is a butterfly, and metamorphosis is obviously going to be a huge theme in this character's development. If this character eats a lot, then being a caterpillar and then turning into a chrysalis is like the most logical state. So maybe that'll inspire their outfit aesthetic design. And then their play style. What if they summon giant primordial genjutsu caterpillars and they're like super nightmarish and horrifying inside of their stomach dimension? I was like, that sounds really cool. I was like, that's like totally. So I started looking into possible designs for it. You know, what do certain insects represent? What character arc do I want for this person? And I kind of just get like a lot of information. And then I start to siphon it down and pick out the things that are meaningful and pick out the character arcs that will be interesting for me to write and just start weeding things out until I come down to an idea that I think is like condensed awesomeness, you know, something that can like specifically represent a bunch of cool ideas. And that's usually my creation process in general. It obviously mirrors a lot of creation processes, but that's like whenever I have any idea, get as much out as I can and start seeing what sticks and just playing with it and making connections and working our way down. And then that's when during that time is when I incorporate the tropes that I like. So I don't have to work at the end to stick them in. Like, it'll be intrinsic.
I feel like I usually like every time I do like a character creation, it's different every time, but it comes back to the same things of like, it's either I heard a really cool trope I liked, I saw like a cool outfit that I was like, oh, obviously, oh, this is what someone would wear, and like, what does that mean? Or like, I just had like a concept in my head that like I was just like, oh, this isn't a concept I came up with, but it's a really good one that I want to make. A warlock whose patron is their producers.
Oh my god.
My other home game of D&D, which again on Hero Sheets I have talked about this before. Like my first year of being into D&D, like I wrote a whole homebrew campaign that I never got through. I'm finally getting to play through it with some friends, and I'm very excited for it. And one of our players is playing Jonathan Silver Scott, who is a property brother, but in this scenario, he is a bullywug, so he is a property brother.
Oh my god.
And then another one of our players is playing his brother, Andrew Alfred Scott. And so, like, constantly, both of their characters, or mostly Jonathan's character, is just like, well, we can't investigate this thing because the producers want us to go here, and like stuff like that.
Right.
And just like, he's not a warlock, but like we thought about it like after the first session, like, oh, you should have been a warlock.
That reminds me of I think, I don't remember who told me about it, but I'm pretty sure I learned about it from here. It was like some bard cleric combination that was like a televangelist.
That's so good.
And I was like, that's so clever. I was like, that's so cool. And just taking those little things and, you know, just being like, any tiny little idea, like, no, we're making this real. Like, how do we get this to happen?
I have so many D&D characters that I never get to play. And just like, I just want to do this warlock because it's so funny. And it's such a good one. I've also been sitting on a wizard with a really low intelligence, just because I think it'd be fun.
We love to see it. We love to see it.
Or
like
just
when people make what is it? I think clerics that have
like no religion stat.
Yeah, no religion. It's like, how do you? But like, it's fun. You gotta
it's a good thing. It just, my conflict with it is like I want to play a character with high intelligence.
Right.
I want to be smart. I want to know things. But or just like, I think I saw this on Tumblr. Someone said like, calling any caster a wizard, and just like playing any, like I play a sorcerer, but I say with confidence that I'm a wizard, even though it's like very obvious that that's not what I do.
Right.
I just, that kind of stuff I love.
That's cute.
Let's grab another question from the Discord. Oh yeah, like Nova's very good question that I think we ask every time. What's the big thing that you wish was more of a standard in the tabletop RPG industry / community, but isn't?
Honestly, maybe that's on me. I was gonna say not so much accessibility, but like standardization. There's not really a lot of like, and that's why I say it might be on me, because there's not, in my experience, there's so much potential content everywhere, like everywhere. You can get lost in one game that is 1% of like, you can get lost in one book series that is like the backstory to one character in one game that's a spinoff of a different game that's like a game series that was made in the 90s. Like, you can, it's very real. And I know there are like compendiums and resources for allowing you to like traverse that kind of information, but as like I don't know if I made this clear, but I'm kind of a perfectionist. I kind of like to get all of the information on everything and then understand what I want to do with it. And like, I look at the tabletop RPG scene and I'm like instantly, you know, I want to get into everything, but you can't, you know? So that's why I don't really feel like it's a shortcoming on the behalf of the tabletop RPG community, but I definitely wish it was like kind of perceived as easier to get into, because it's not like it's bad, it's hard to get into, but if it was like understood, you know, when you're in high school, if you don't have an environment that's telling you that this is acceptable and normal, you kind of just assume that all of it is one thing, you know?
Exactly. I can't remember, I know that we kind of talked about this at some point on the show, but I can't remember who it was, but maybe it was Vince. I feel like a lot of times I just refer back to that episode because he said a lot of really good stuff, but just like that sometimes like different RPGs aren't as accessible because it's really like, for me, it's really hard for me to sit down and read something. So I consume and learn a lot of rules through watching other people play or by playing myself with someone who knows how it works. And so like I feel like a lot of other tabletop RPGs aren't as accessible to me through that means because they're just not as popular, or like there aren't good examples of like someone playing through it, which harpens back to, this is Vince's point of like, everyone really likes D&D, and we keep trying to make it do things that other RPGs do better, and by
Yeah,
doing that,
totally.
we're hurting everyone.
Yeah, that happens constantly. You know, like you want, you know, farming simulator out of D&D, and it's like, well, I mean, there's this TTRPG that like actually is that. Like we can play that, but then that scene
Sounds
might
actually
be
really
small.
fun.
I know, right? Like that things like this actually exist, and it's like, you know, but if you try to just morph D&D into that because D&D is popular, it's gonna make everything take forever and be probably really confusing, and you might not even get what you really wanted out of it, which is like a huge bummer.
Exactly. And just like I hit on this earlier with Honey Heist, but that's like why it's one of my favorite systems, is that I taught it to my players within 5 minutes, and then we could just play, and like for the most part everyone understood how it worked. I like the simplistic things in life. As like we talked about this earlier too. I just have stuff all over my desk and I'm just throwing it everywhere. Let's grab another. Grab another.
From across the room.
Oh no! Let's grab another question from the Discord. I'm gonna take this next question from Nova again. Just submitting all of my favorite questions. That's not. I mean, like, yes, she submits all of the all good questions. All questions that are submitted are good. That's the point I want to get across.
Yes.
Just like I feel like no one submits as many questions as Nova, and so I always end up saying all of theirs at once. But like, what's your favorite? Like, what's your drink of choice for any tabletop session?
I haven't delved into this as much as I should have.
Just like nothing comes to the top of your mind at all.
I don't want to say.
I'll tell you mine because I've got all of these like off-brand soda cans everywhere. I love a good knockoff Dr. Pepper, because I'm cheap, and so that is typically what I'm drinking.
Dr. Pepper does hit.
Only if it's like cold. Room temp, it's real bad.
Yeah, that stuff is literally disgusting. I don't know. I've been drinking a lot of Gatorade recently. I love Gatorade. I could tell myself that it was water and just drink it all the time and just kind of ignore all of the negative consequences that brings. But I think in reality, my favorite drinks are like drinks.
Well, you can talk about drinks.
Like 10 minutes in, I'm not really playing D&D anymore. That's usually my mentality there most of the time. I did that at in DC. I was in DC for like a year. I did that like all the time. So that was pretty cool.
I technically, legally I can drink now, and I just haven't had the opportunity to.
Valid.
But I'm hoping to maybe at some point consume some sort of alcohol, so I can say that I have.
There we go. Life experience.
Exactly. And also just because, I don't know. Anyways, another question from the Discord I hear. Let's see.
Me.
I think we might have done all the Discord questions. I think we might have done all the Discord questions.
Boom. We blowing through it.
You know what that means, Joel? Or Joel, Ari, I'm so sorry.
Nah, we're one and the same. The
but
energy we radiate, if you conflate them, that means he's doing something right.
I did the same thing on what is it called? Actually the thing that Joe hosted for our stream, where I called you Joel twice, with Joe correcting me and being like Ari, and I was like Joel. But anyways, with this we finished all of our questions.
You did really well in that, by the way. I saw that. You did really well.
Thank you. I have forgotten to collect my prize, so maybe I'll do that. What was we're gonna talk about Pokemon now because we finished.
Yes, I was thinking about that.
Okay,
I was like, I hope we can talk about Pokemon.
For context for our lovely audience, before we started, Joelle, I, and Nova, our lovely producer, just started talking about trading cards, and then it turned into us talking about Pokemon, which is and like Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm saying this on air. I thought it was a pretty okay game. I don't care about the national decks. My problem is that I'm a 10-year-old and they wouldn't let me stop crime right away, which is stupid.
No, that's valid. I remember in Ruby and Sapphire, I was so nosy, and in Diamond and Pearl, you were just pulling up, crime fighting, talking to all these business heads. They were like terrorists and like political enemies of the state, and you just walk up in their hideout and just start fighting them. That's like what the whole game is.
That's like one of the staples for it, I feel like.
Yes.
Like it's been in every Pokemon, and not to say like we shouldn't change staples just because like a thing is common, but like this is one of the things that I come to Pokemon for, is the feeling that I can change the world by myself and my cool animal companions.
Definitely.
But
no,
like
totally.
It was like a staple thing. I feel like Sun and Moon moved away from it. Like they did it in a really interesting way, which I liked. And then Sword and Shield completely dropped the ball. And they set up Team Yell like they were. Also, Pokemon Sword and Shield spoilers. If you haven't played, I don't want to ruin that for you. Anyways, they like set in like all the trailers and promotional stuff, they made it seem like Team Yell was gonna be a problem, and they weren't.
They were nuisances at most.
And it's just like, no, that's not what I like. If we're gonna make them be rowdy, like terrible fans, then they should pick a fight with me every time I beat Marnie. Also, Marnie needs to be in the game more.
Yeah, Marnie was queen. I don't know what that was about. They really pulled through with these characters. Alistair is by far my favorite Pokemon character design, period. And it's just like, yo, like this is so great. Y'all did such a fantastic job. And Gordy and just I love all of them.
It's just like they're good. And I want to mess with them more. They did a really good job, I think, with Hop. And I was talking
I think I was
talking to my brother about this, that at the end of the post-game stuff, he was just telling me what was happening, or like what happens, and I was heartbroken that Hop got to become a Pokemon researcher, because that's what I spent the entire game being like, well, just let me do the research. Like, if that's what's gonna let me see the cool, let me be a researcher. And so like, I'm just
Hop gets a lot of hate for like no reason.
It's because people just get mad about silly things, just as I'm getting mad about silly things. But like then they take it too far, where they're just like, he's the worst character ever, he's the worst rival, and it's like, I like him, he's good. Be nice to him. Because there are other Pokemon like rivals that just suck, like that are worse. X and Y,
and they're like one note or not interesting. That happens all the time.
Yeah, literally. My biggest problem with X and Y is that they force you to have friends, and then like they don't matter at all.
And then they don't exist. They don't exist. I was like, where was Tierno this whole game? Literally, where was he?
Exactly. And then like your rival has no personality traits. I could tell you a personality trait for the rest of the rivals. Like they all have Tierno dances. I can't name the rest of them. Shauna, she's got girl. She's girl.
She's girl.
And then
she's female.
The other dude, the orange-haired kid.
He was the nerd guy. What was he?
Yeah, he was.
I want to say Clement,
smart.
but Clement was the other one.
I don't know his name, but it doesn't matter. He was smart.
Your rival that's the problem too.
We just don't be knowing anything about these
You
characters.
just don't know nothing. That is an issue. I do feel like what kind of brings about one element of why I can take such issue with the national dex is kind of something that you brought up
Hmm.
when you said that fighting bad guys is like a central element of what you do in the
Yeah.
Pokemon story. And like I feel like Pokemon kind of got big enough as a franchise where it has done so many things traditionally that the franchise can mean one very specific thing to an entire group of people.
Oh, for sure.
And like there's some people who their experience with Pokemon is shiny hunting, or their experience with Pokemon is competitive, or their
Hmm.
experience with Pokemon is specifically the story. And they're all valid because all of those things are great. And I think the only real issue that comes from Sword and Shield is that all of those things have been constant for the past however many years Pokemon has existed. And when they
21 this year.
21, okay, I knew we
Uh-huh.
just had a big number.
Yeah. I'm the same
You
age
know,
as
all of
Pokemon.
those things have been. Oh my gosh, me too. Okay. Wow. Anyway, all, all of those things have been staples for so long, and you know, it's not like it's gonna destroy the game. It's not like that means the game is bad, but it does mean that if you take one of those things away, you are hurting a very large group of the people who do genuinely care about this game,
Hmm.
and doing so by omitting something that you have been doing for years. You know, like there's no reason to actually make the post game be DLC. There's no reason to make the national dex not be available. And not that like, oh, you didn't do the national dex, you're evil. Like, why? Like,
Yeah.
what? Why? You did this for what? You know? And it doesn't make them the bad guys, but it does definitely. It made me disheartened. And Dodrio is my favorite Pokemon. It's been in since Generation 1. Alolan Exeggutor is my second favorite. And I've liked Exeggutor for a while. Speaking of Alolan Exeggutor, I have an Alolan Exeggutor deck right here. And you know, I love them, and
Mhm.
they're not everything to me, but they are definitely pretty important, and I would have ran them if they were in the game. And I'm just kind of like, man, that's crazy. I was like, if they add all of the Pokemon, then I will. It's kind of a no-brainer for me at that point because
Mhm.
that was the thing that was relevant to me. You know, that was part of what made Pokemon to
Which
me.
is valid. I'm not swinging on people
Yeah,
who are
yeah. I'm
just
not
like,
saying you
yeah.
didn't say that.
No, you're.
Totally.
I get it, but like, just like we talked about this earlier too. Before we started the show, it's just like a lot of people got very emotional and heated on it, which I understand. But then like
Yeah,
it just turned into like either you're with me or you're against me, and that's
exactly.
it.
It was like, oh man, can y'all please stop?
And I. I didn't see any of that drama until after Sword and Shield came out because I
Yeah,
muted I muted like the word Pokemon on everything just cuz when they did Sword and Shield they told me all of the Pokemon before the game started and I didn't like that.
yeah, I
um
feel
so
that.
so like I came back and I was like, "Oh, so we're mad about this now. Cool." Anyway, um what was the other thing? Oh, this is a completely new tangent that I'm hopping to. Joel, do you? Or, I'm so sorry, Ari. Ari, do
You
you
got it.
play Animal Crossing?
I do. I actually just got my cast off of my hand. You might see it's still like super swollen in like one unit,
Hmm.
but I had that cast on for 2 months. I was dying. I couldn't do my homework, and I couldn't even play video games to pretend I didn't have homework. But near the end, I could play Animal Crossing because you can play Animal Crossing with one hand. So I've been playing Animal Crossing kind of intensively for the past like 3 weeks.
Joel, what's your opinion on time traveling in Animal Crossing?
Okay, this is my first Animal Crossing game.
Hmm.
I've actually never played Animal Crossing before New Horizons, and I feel like because I only had one hand, I kind of was just getting used to what the game was in general.
Hmm.
I was time traveling at the beginning so that I could just like do stuff like plant flowers and just see the game. But then, because for a long time I literally couldn't do anything. I was just sitting in front of my TV for like 9 hours a day, and I was like crying inside. I was like, I'm dying. But then as I kind of got into it, I was like, I low key wish that I didn't do that. I kind of wish that I had like let the game just like be the game and like learn what stuff looks like as time went on, because then you kind of get a degree of disappointment or elation, and your disappointments make your successes more powerful. And just, you know, not that it was bad, I don't feel like I cheated or anything, but I am kind of like, it might have been a little bit more personal to me. Everything in my town might have felt more personal if I had gone without time traveling. And also because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not building a super high-rise island. You know, I don't really have anything to time travel for. You know, that's what I realized later. It's like, you know, what am I? It's like wishing your life away in real life. Why do I want to be older? I'm not. There's nothing that I have in mind to do with that. You know.
Yeah. Here's my hot, spicy take on
Hot take.
on time traveling. If you want to time travel, then do it. I know a lot of. I'm an art history major. I'm a double major.
Hey.
But one of them is art history, and we talk about the intent of the artist a lot, and like whether or not that matters. And
yeah,
I've seen so many people be so mad about people who time travel and talking about how it's an invalid experience because you're not experiencing the game that you're like as you're supposed to or as it was designed. And I truly see no issue with it, because I think a lot of value that we get from things is just our personal experience for it. So like if you're a person like me who's very impatient, then time travel so like you can get your thing faster. Or like I time travel because I don't play until 12 a.m. and nothing's like open.
And nothing's open. Exactly.
Nothing's open,
you know?
and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yes.
But like I've seen people just get like any sort of time traveling is banned, and I think that your personal experience with it, like even in your case where you think that maybe you would have been more attached, or it would have been more personal if you had or if you had done all of the waiting as the game wants you to do, is valid. But I also think someone who had a very rushed experience in which they like went through everything very quickly, they caught all of the seasonal bugs, they went to the next I think both of those experiences are very valid. And I'm sick of people just being like, play the game how it's supposed to be, especially because some of these people are the same ones who play competitive. I'm doing a very vague call out for something I saw on Twitter, but like some of these people are the ones who play competitive Smash, which I would argue is not playing the game how it was designed to be.
Yes. That is not how the game was designed. I used to play competitive Smash Bros. And I love Smash Bros. Smash Bros. Is the only game where I can play as Princess Zelda in a way that makes sense to me, other than Hyrule Warriors. Love Zelda. Like,
we love strong women.
Love this woman. Like, but I will be the first one to say Smash Bros. Is not a fighting game. It's a platform brawler. And that doesn't mean
it's a party game.
Fight in it. It is a party game. It's a King of the Hill wrestling game. Like, you're kicking people off of the screen, you know? Just because people are engaging in combat doesn't mean it's a fighting game. And you can treat it like a fighting game, and you can do stuff in it that, you know, is fighting game-esque, and you can build a fighting game community. But you gotta remember, like Sakurai said 8 million times, stop doing this. This is not competitive. I want you to have fun. I want you to have a party, and then you turn around and do this. And then for that same person to say, oh, you're not playing Animal Crossing, right? Like, you're picking and choosing.
Yeah.
You're not. You're not.
Truly don't have the brain power to get into a conversation with that person. But boy, howdy, did it make me mad. And it's just like, that's all. Like we hit on this with Pokemon too, and this relates back to like D&D and just like everything that we've kind of talked about today. Nice little wrap up for you. It's just it's your personal experience with it. It's what you make out of it. So the things that you find fun are the things that you participate more in. And so like I like collecting Pokemon cards and making smart D&D characters and talking to my cool friends. And so those are the things I try to do more versus like, well, if I'm supposed to do X because this is how people have set it up, well, it's stupid.
Well, if
it's
I don't
stupid.
like it, if I don't like that, is so I'm not supposed to play anymore because I don't like it the way that I'm supposed to like it. That's what it is.
Or like, the thing that also makes me mad is that people have just been telling me to just go play Stardew Valley if I want, like, if that's what I was expecting, which is
Yeah.
like, they're different games. I get different joys
Yes.
out of them. I do play Stardew Valley. I get my happy farm simulation out of there. I get to go in a cave and smack some slimes. Can't do that in Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I can't catch bugs in Stardew Valley, which I love doing in Animal Crossing. So like, just like, let people have fun as long as they're not like causing harm to anyone else by like what they're doing. It's okay. Chill out. It's a
Totally.
piece of art to be consumed in this way.
Yes. It's made for people to enjoy it. If people are enjoying it, then it's
Yeah,
doing what it's supposed to be doing.
exactly. You get it.
We're right there. We're right there.
Yeah. I also want to highlight that this is the first time that me and Ari have talked, and I love that we have just hit it off perfectly, or just on the same wavelengths about a lot of things. But we do gotta wrap up the show. It is 7:28 my time, so like what, 10:28
Yes,
Eastern? Yeah.
it is 10:28 Eastern.
Yeah, Joel, Ari, I'm sorry, I keep doing it.
You're good.
Do you want to like again reiterate where can we find you? What do you do?
All right. I am I gotta say it now. I'm a TikToker. I have a moderately like medium sized TikTok following. And you can find me on TikTok at the Frog Prince. I talk about a lot of social justice stuff and a little bit of fighting game stuff, not really because people wouldn't get it over there. And I feel like I'm kind of smart and funny. So if you like that, then follow me. And you can find me on Twitter at CNMNE and then the number 6. I talk about fighting game stuff. And yes, that's about it.
What do you do on this channel?
On this channel.
What
I forgot about my alter ego. On this channel.
Tomorrow, maybe?
Tomorrow. I've been literally okay, that's actually weird because all yesterday I was talking to my mom on the phone about Mousecapades and how great it was. So whatever. Tomorrow I will be playing Joelle in Mousecapades. And it is at what is it? What time is it? Not Eastern. What time is it your time?
It's Pacific over here. What time do you guys start Eastern? And I'll tell you what it is Pacific. Joe, I know you're in chat.
My brain fell apart.
What time does your... It's 5 p.m. Eastern, which means it's 3 p.m. Pacific tomorrow here on...
It feels like it's always later. It's just later because it gets dark. Anyway, I'm Joelle. I'm super fun and cool. And I use he, him pronouns. And you can watch me tomorrow on Mousecapades, ran by the awesome Joe, Sleepless in Lexington, Sleepless Seymour, Peppeline Doll, Lord of the World, my love. You catch me tomorrow doing that with 2 other awesome people.
Yes, and then I was your lovely host, Daria or Doran, whatever you please to call me. She, her pronouns. You can catch me on Twitter talking about not knowing about Bones, the TV show, at ethnic_Dorito. I also do this every month, and so next month we'll do this again on the 28th. It's always the last Thursday of the month. I do want to quickly mention a really cool thing that happened for our founder of this channel and my DM, Mustang. Mustang got interviewed by Wizards of the Coast. It's in the newest, like the most latest Dragon Plus, in which they talk about accessibility in gaming. It's a really good read. They mentioned this channel. It links to my Twitter, so if you couldn't figure out how to spell Dorito, you can go read that really cool article in which like they just talk about this really important thing in gaming. I also want to give a nice hearty thank you to our lovely producer Nova, who got this all running today.
We
They
love
do
you.
a wonderful job always. And safe travels, adventurers. We will see you next month.
Woo.